we take that holistic approach to where parents are invested, the parent education classes, the volunteer hours.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're Christians, so we want to be able to share the word of God with each family that walks through our doors. You really can see how you're changing lives and how you're impacting lives. I was completely intrigued by all the great wine, but everything that happens behind the scenes in terms of understanding the soil, the grapes, the fermentation process, matching people up with their wines, and then also getting them to out of their comfort zone. If you only drink cabs, let's try a Bordeaux. Let's just think outside the box. When you're a leader, you have to figure out who you are in terms of, again, your management style. And for me, that's being a values-based leader. I place values on what I am sharing, but then also my expectations for my team, and then what we bring to the table. I hire for character. I hire for values. I want people that are mission-minded, that have a heart for what we do and who we are and how we're trying to transform lives. As a leader, I had to step up and compartmentalize. I have fear-based concerns like my team. I have to remain calm. I have to be able to project what I need from him and be able to lead through those tough moments.
I'ma kick back when you fake back.
Welcome to Beauty Unveiled. I am Dr. Angela Sturm, and today I have with me the beautiful Tonia Labbe. She's been my friend for a year or two. And
Plus 10
yes.
or 15.
She's the executive director at the Nehemiah Center, which is an amazing organization that helps not just the kids, but the parents from pre-K all the way up through getting into college and graduating. She's been in education and has also become a sommelier. We'll discuss how you get into that, but thank you so much for being with us today.
Absolutely.
So first things first, how did you become a sommelier? Why did you decide to? All that fun stuff.
People ask me that question all the time. Like, okay, you're an educator, and they don't necessarily go hand in hand, but it's one of those things that through life experiences. So I have a friend, Dang, that lives in San Francisco, and we grew up together. He's also from New Orleans. And like most people, nowadays we reconnected on social media, Facebook. Yeah. And he said, if you're ever in San Francisco, come by. I'd love to see you, let's hang out. And that's actually what happened. And I did my very first trip to Napa Valley with Dang. And man, was that just like planting a seed. And I was completely intrigued, not only by all the great wine, obviously I tasted, but everything that happens behind the scenes in terms of understanding the soil, the grapes, the fermentation process. I think that spoke to me as an educator. So I became very inquisitive, wanting to learn more, and started doing a lot on my own to just, research, and then continuing to visit Napa annually. And so I did that for about 10 years. And then during COVID, life stopped for all of us. And then I found myself in this very interesting situation where I'm working from home, which I had never done before. And so I had some downtime. And so I wanted to be able to fulfill that commitment to myself, to where I knew that at some point I wanted to continue to professionalize and really grow who I am in the wine industry. And I knew that getting the certifications through the WSET, the Wine, Spirit, and Education Trust, would be important. And so started, studying and pursuing that again during COVID, and taking those certification classes, and, was able to pass everything. And it really grew from there. And so now being able to do wine tastings that I offer through NOLA Cork Whisperer, and then sharing in a very informal way. I'm not going to be the person, the fuddy-duddy, big, huge terms. I want to get a group of people together that love wine or like wine and just want to figure out more about it, what that looks like. Like, I know
more accessible.
Exactly. Like, I like white wine. I kind of want to get into red wine. And then we talk about what you like in terms of your palate and figuring out what that looks like. in terms of dry wines or whatever that may be. And that is really what brings me so much joy, kind of like matching people up with their wines, and then also getting them to, out of their comfort zone.
Right.
So, if you've only, drank,
box wine.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
We're not drinking boxed wines here. But,
She's like, no.
if you only drink cabs, then, let's, you might like, let's try a Bordeaux. Let's just think out of the box and, really, helping people figure that out. And and people just really love it, when they can figure that out. I think a lot of people know they like wine, but then they just don't know what direction to go in. So I feel like I'm just really that guide. I'm not going to tell you what you like. And I really, when I do the wine tastings, it's about figuring out, okay, based on your palate and your preference and what's happening in your household, let's make it fun, because I'm coming into your home to meet with you and your friends, and we're going to have a good time and sip some great wine. But it's about you and not about me. And that's just what I love about it. It's just sharing the knowledge. It's a never-ending process of learning, obviously, like any industry, but in particular with wine.
Because it can be really intimidating. Like,
and I
all
think
the different kinds.
And I think people do get intimidated. I've even, like when I've done wine tastings or talk to people, when you go into the restaurants and they have, some of them I call, if you go to, Mastro's, they have what I call the wine Bible. It's like 100 pages worth of wine. That's intimidating. Like, I just want a glass of wine. That's most people, right?
We close it and go, what do you drink?
But I do like to empower people to say, if you are, at a nice restaurant, or even if you're just at your favorite restaurant, whatever that may be, and they have a wine list, some things that you can look for based on what you like, and just giving people those helpful tips and, just helping them figure that out. That's just my love language. I love wine, and I just want to be able to continue to grow and share what I learn.
What a great gift to be able to give that to people, and then they can just enjoy those things that might have been a little like scary.
Absolutely. And then I have to say this real quick, like my mom. Oh my gosh. Every time we go to a restaurant, she is the person with the waiter that, they can't make any recommendations. My daughter's going to make the recommendations. She's
proud mom.
She's the proud mom. My daughter's a sommelier. She can tell you. And I'm like, well, Mom, he actually works here. He may know better than me. But, I allow her to let me shine in that moment. And so I love being able to do that for my family. Let her have her moment. And then I take over my dad's, wine cabinet every time I go home, and I'm stocking it with, I'm like, don't worry, Dad, you'll like this. You'll enjoy it. Don't worry.
I know he loves that.
Absolutely, yes.
Obviously an educator. Like, what got you into that initially?
Well, that's another mom thing. I'm not kidding you. When I was in college, my first major was speech pathology.
Oh, really?
I know. I know. Like, I thought I wanted to be a speech pathologist, and I started taking the classes, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this. What am I going to do? And then of course I called my mom, and she was like, you should consider being a teacher, and you get your summers off. I think you'd be good at it. And I was really against it. I was like, I don't want to be a teacher. No. And she was like, look, at the very least, just take a few classes and just see if you like it. And I think I speak for every child when you have to later admit that your mom was right, but she was right. And so I took the classes and just fell in love with education. And so I started my teaching career in Louisiana, teaching 5th grade elementary school, and did that for a few years and loved it. And that's actually what brought me to Houston. And so ended up teaching middle school here for a couple of years. And I absolutely loved it. It was a different age group, but still very much in my wheelhouse. But then, I think God at that point put a calling on my life to really seek out something outside of the classroom. And I had no idea what that was going to be. So this was long ago, when there was no monster.com or indeed.com. So old school, like Houston Chronicle, searching job ads. And I remember finding this very vague job ad that said education director required, education director needed, education experience required. And I'm like, I have no idea what that job entails, but I'll apply for it. And then Yeah. So then I find out more information. It's about, it's called the Nehemiah Center. And that's how I first joined the team. And the education director really functions like the principal.
Okay.
And so, overseeing the programs and instruction and curriculum, all those different things. And so, I joined the team and I did that for 5 years and I really loved it. It gave me an opportunity to work directly with the children and the parents. So I think that's what makes the Nehemiah Center unique, is that we work with the whole family. It's that, as you know, we take that holistic approach to where parents are invested. They're doing the parent education classes, the volunteer hours. Yeah. And then the other big piece is that obviously we're Christians. So we want to be able to share the word of God with each family that walks through our doors. And so that piece is what really drew me to the Nehemiah Center. And that's really what has kept me there, just the core of our mission, because then you really can see how you're changing lives and how you're impacting lives. Yeah. And for me, that's really beautiful, because it's like you said at the very beginning, our mission is to follow each child from pre-K through college. And I've been there long enough to where we've been able to see, our kids, some of our kids graduate from college and offer them scholarship money. And it's just tremendous. And it's just exceeded my wildest expectations for them. I think when you work with the demographic that we work with, the underserved population, at the very least, you just want to equip them with the resources and just the help that they need to just stabilize the household. So when you're able to not only stabilize the household, but then allow that child to really thrive and grow, it is just the most fulfilling experience. And so it is not easy. And I tell people that the work we do is not for the faint of heart. It's very difficult working with families, because you're bumping up against a lot of within generational poverty, a lot of systemic issues that you're trying to help them move past and resolve. And so it's just a daily commitment from myself and my team to where we're just going to, keep doing the good work to get these kids to pursue higher education. And it's not even just about college. And I love to say that, because I think in this day and age, success looks different for everyone. I feel like success is based on the personal goals that you set for yourself and really how you would go about attaining that and accomplishing that. But, a 4-year university does not dictate success in life. There is so many entrepreneurs or people that are successful that have never graduated from college. So I think it's about a trade certification, 2-year, 4-year university. What speaks to you? Let us allow us to be able to tell you what all those different career sectors can look like. So that's been very exciting to see some of, my kids go in different directions. I have one young lady, she thought she wanted to go into nursing school. And then she came back and she told the scholarship committee, she was like, this is just way too ambitious for me. And I just know this is not, my calling. And she said, actually, I want to be an ultrasound technician. And I was like, that is amazing. I love that. And so just to be able to see how they gravitate toward, different things. So, they're always my babies. So even when they're in high school or pursuing college, I always say they're my babies and I'm so proud of them. But it's really great to see how we build that foundation from the very start with our pre-K, the early childhood education program. And then just to see over time the continuity of it. Yeah, the growth.
I remember when I first met you, that's what you said. You're like, I have 200 babies. And I was like, what?
I love to shock people and tell people that like, this is going to be shocking to you. But yes, I have 200 kids and look at this figure.
I know.
I mean, who knew? Yes. And then obviously, we met. Okay, so how long ago was Leadership Houston? I feel like we're kind of aging ourselves.
It was when I first started practice. So it was like 2012.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So a few years ago.
Yeah. And I can clearly remember just gravitating toward you and Allison and Brooks. It was just that, like there were microcosms within Leadership Houston, right, of people that would just kind of congregate. Yeah. And I was like so excited that I found my people. And then also being an educator, you don't meet a lot of people outside because, when you're in your field, you're in your bubble, you're networking. And I think that's the one really cool and amazing thing about Leadership Houston, that it takes you out of your bubble to where you're with bankers and doctors and all of these phenomenal people, real estate agents, and we all come together for that common goal. And it was just a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. Such good people that, we're still friends now.
Yes.
Learned a lot about the city, a lot about a lot of different things. It was a great organization.
For me, I'm not a native Houstonian. I'm from New Orleans, and people like to say, "Oh, well, you're a Houstonian at this point." I'm like, no, I'm a New Orleanian,
like forever.
But there was so much I didn't know about the city.
Yeah.
And I know some people that are even from here. Like, we learned so much because we would do the field trips to all these different places.
So interesting.
Like when we went to the reserve, the Federal Reserve, and like those. I'm like, okay, I've seen this building. I've never been inside.
Right.
Like,
driven by it a million times.
The 911 call center.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
That was pretty cool to see where the magic happens when, unfortunately, there's just, disaster relief or just those emergency planning things that have to happen. Like, okay.
How they take care of those things and all the organization behind it and all the people behind it.
Exactly.
Definitely interesting. And I think it's meeting those people and finding people that are driven in their own ways and they're leaders in their own ways. And that's, helps you develop, or help me develop too as a leader of, okay, well, this is how you do this. And that's how that person does that. And like take those things away from it.
I think it's truly, what Leadership Houston set out to do is to develop leaders. And I know you were early on in your career with, launching what you're phenomenally doing on such a major level now. But even for myself, that was early on in my role when I stepped in as executive director. And I think you're not only figuring out how to do the job, but understanding the need to network and cultivate relationships to add value to what you're doing. And I think that's what Leadership Houston taught me. I think innately, I'm a first generation college graduate. So there was a lot of first for me since graduating college. And that's something that was not innately taught to me in terms of the power of networking and all of those different things. And so, grabbing and pursuing those opportunities have just been huge for me to develop me as a leader over the years. So a lot of, again, what we learned in Leadership Houston, it was just applying that to who I am, and just, again, knowing the importance of meeting people and
those relationships.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's all about relationships. It's like building your business and your life, and like everything is like relationships. And so being a woman leader.
Sometimes I don't feel like the leader. Sometimes I say the kids are really in charge. It's not me.
You're falling behind like, that's my house.
Exactly.
I could see that. Oh, what do you think you've learned outside of like just relationships, that you would pass on to another young woman who wants to be a leader and wants to do things that impact the community? Because you've done amazing job impacting our community.
Yeah. Gosh, that's such a big question. I would say first, figure out the type of leader you want to be, your management style, how you want to interact with your team. There's lots of big messages that I try, that I share with my team, but there's also lots of little messages, like I have an open door policy. And so unless I'm in a meeting or, on a Zoom call virtually, then my door is always open. I want you to be able to come in and have that opportunity to meet with me because, it's busy at Nehemiah and the teachers are in classrooms and, there's just a lot of moving parts. And so I just want them to know that they do have access to me. But I think, when you're a leader, you have to figure out who you are in terms of, again, your management style. And for me, that's being a values-based leader, if you will. I place a lot, and even if I were not at Nehemiah, even if I were not working within a ministry in a Christian school, I think I would still be a values-based leader. That I place values on what I'm sharing, but then also my expectations for my team and then what we bring to the table. I hire for character. I hire for values. I want people that are mission minded, that have a heart for what we do and who we are and how we're trying to transform lives.
Yeah.
And so I think that being able to be confident in that management style allows me to really give direction to my team. And, you know, that's a huge thing.
It is a huge thing.
You know, when you have a group of people looking at you, waiting on you, needing direction. And I think about COVID as one particular moment in time when, you know, everyone was going through so much personally and professionally. But here's a time where we are all in crisis. I mean, this is a global pandemic, and people are scared. You know, we didn't know what was happening, what was going on. People are getting sick, like what's, you know, but then in that moment, you know, you have to step up as a leader. You know, I had to step up and compartmentalize and say, okay, as much as, you know, I have fear-based concerns like my team, I have to remain calm. I have to be able to project what I need from them and be able to lead through those tough moments. And so, you know, it's easy to say you're the leader, but I think you really grow through the tough times.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you learn from them. I mean, you know, a lot of the advice, I have a new education director, a lot of the advice I'm giving her, I always tell her it's not to give you like definitive direction. I really just want you to take it and receive it, because my advice is based off of, you know, the bumps.
Right. What you learned from the hard way.
The things that I didn't do right. So it's just like, I don't want you to have to reinvent the wheel or repeat the same mistakes. I really want you to learn and take heed to this and be patient with them regarding this. And, you know, and as we come together, let's share this, because I feel like, and that's a big piece of what I'm passionate about, is really helping other people that are new to management. And so when I meet other people that are new in their roles, whether it's, you know, in education or out, I always say, you know, give me a call. I want to help guide you. I want to share advice, best practices, you know, how I prepare for team meetings and how I motivate my team, because I feel like that's how we learn from each other. I don't have all the answers. I spend a lot of time, you know, reading not only things for me, whether it be the Bible or something that's kind of faith-based, to give me that inspiration. That's what I draw from, to be able to, you know, share a story or compare something to what we're going through and bringing the team together. So like every, you know, school year, there's always a theme, you know, in terms of, you know, just growth and revival. And that's a big part of what we're doing this school year. And everything plays off of that. So I just really enjoy that, being able to set the tone and being able to inspire people, because people need to feel inspired. And it's not just a one-time thing. It's like, it's a constant. I think that was one of the things in the beginning. I thought the big part of my job was just that administrative side. And it's really, it's not. A big piece of it, and I think the hardest piece, is the personnel piece. Yeah, because you're working with adults that may be younger or older than you. So it's also figuring out who they are. And then I always say, their love language.
Absolutely.
How they need to be, you know, receive information, give information, if they really need your face-to-face time. Yeah. You know, I have some, you know, team members, you know, Christina, I can just send her a text message, send her an email about a report or something that I need done. But then I have another team member that I know I have to go sit down with them in their office, have that face-to-face moment, because they need to hear from me in person. And so that's hard, you know, as a leader, because that did not come naturally to me. I wish I could say it did, but it did not. So learning that piece, and then also just learning that it takes time and that you have to be very patient. And that is something that does not come naturally to me. But when you work with kids, or and you have kids, you know, you have to learn patience. And I think the same is true when you're managing, you know, a team that you want them to find value in you and respect you and who you are. So in turn, you have to really think about how you're approaching them and interacting with them, because every single person is different.
Yeah.
And so that's a lot of what I have truly learned over the years. And again, it's still evolving, because I feel like we never stop growing,
Right.
As leaders. And I'm not going to be at, the Nehemiah Center forever. I'm not going anywhere, right, in this moment or anytime soon. But, I want to be able to grow and evolve. And I think as I, launch that next chapter of my life and pursue whatever that may be, I hope I can continue to evolve, and people can say that, I was a good team leader to them. I do not like the word boss. That's a hot button for me.
Yeah. Why don't you like
I don't
boss?
know, because then I think people innately also like women are bossy or boss, and and so I don't know. I have a problem with the word. I like being called a leader.
Yeah.
I feel like that gives very clear direction in terms of who I am and what I expect. Because if you're leading a team, and I don't like to even call my team members employees, they are my team members. We work alongside each other. Yes, there's a hierarchy, but that's just on paper. At the end of the day, we all have to be working cohesively together.
Yeah.
So I just try very hard to just kind of gravitate away from that. And really use that type of language to where we understand that, this is a work relationship, and we're all, again, working together.
Yeah. Yeah. We're all on the same team. We all have the same goal. Sometimes I feel like this is along the lines, but branching off a little bit. When we were talking about that, I was thinking, some of the other women I've talked to, we're very collaborative, but then there's like boundaries. Like, how do you deal with boundaries with team members?
I have very clear boundaries.
It's really good.
And I've always, the previous executive director, I think at the Nehemiah Center, very early on when I stepped in as the education director, shared some things that I really did apply and take to heart. Because in that role, I stepped in and I was young in that role, and I was managing people that were older, and she said, you're going to have some clear boundaries.
Yeah.
But even for me, years later, I do not have any professional friends on any of my personal social media pages.
Yeah.
That has always been a huge no-no. I feel like you need to have clear boundaries in this day and age when it comes to social media.
Yeah.
And again, boundary. And even within the workplace, I think it's a lot about, especially for a woman, I feel like women in leadership, women in upper management, you have to really be aware of how people perceive you. So I share with other leaders or people that are seeking my advice, be aware of how you dress, how you carry yourself, how people perceive things, and your outward perception of how you're putting yourself out there, whether it's professionally in person, face-to-face meetings, virtually, on social media, because everything in this day and age is for public consumption.
Yeah.
But I feel like, within the workplace day to day, I feel like, yes, I have boundaries and they know that. I mean, again, I have the open door policy, but at the same time, I don't intermingle with my team. So we're not going out for happy hours or drinks. I encourage them to do that. You guys have a blast.
Right.
Be safe.
Go bond.
Have all the fun. We do team bonding, and that's the way I bond with my team. But I feel like, again, when you're a leader, it has to look different for you. And I think what gets a lot of people down that very windy road, bumpy road, is when you think you can do all of that.
Right. Yeah. I think so too. Like, that's where I see, especially like physicians and young physicians, because we have zero business experience, and then you go out and you're like, oh, start a practice, and you're just used to like everybody works together, and you're like, no, you know, like you said, we're teammates, we work together, but it only works if you're like very clear about
it. And you have to really think about it also, because it's going to happen to where at some point you're going to have to redirect someone, right? Have to have a tough conversation. It's going to be very hard to do that if you just,
Right.
we're at Chili's the night before, hanging out, having a great time. And so in order to be an effective leader, you have to have those boundaries, and you just have to think about, because for each person it's different. But I just would encourage, especially any woman in a leadership position, to spend time thinking about that and what will set you up for success. Because you want your team to always be able to come to you and trust in you, but always hold you in high regard.
Right.
That's what I, strive for.
Yeah. And like you said, that you're aware of how you present, how people are perceiving things. Then
absolutely. I wish I could say that, it's an even playing field when it comes to women in business. But I think both of, you and I, we both know that's not the case. And so
we got to perform at 150% to get the A.
Literally, yes. I mean, I always say you got to show up earlier, stay later. You just, it's always in the back of my mind in terms of having to prove myself. And I have no problem doing that. And I really rise to the occasion to be able to do that, because I really do want to show that I can be an effective leader as a woman. Yeah. And so, it is that self-imposed pressure. I think we do.
You hold yourself to that,
Absolutely. But I think it's paid off well for us.
Absolutely. We did well. Yeah.
Definitely.
So what is your final advice to any young woman that, you wish somebody had said to you?
Yeah. Be yourself. Figure out, I think you can still be a professional. I think you can still be a leader. But I find what my team appreciates is that I bring a piece of myself to the table. And that's, being able to laugh at myself or share pieces of who I am personally. And I think, again, that adds value. I think sometimes when you are in leadership positions, you feel like in the beginning, it has to be very black and white. But there are some gray areas. And I feel like your team appreciates when you can be candid and transparent with them, especially during tough times.
Right.
And saying, gosh, I really struggled. I really struggled too with you guys getting through this. Or just being able to celebrate really great moments and say, oh my gosh, we had so much fun at the gala. Did you guys see me almost trip on the stage? That was crazy. Oh my gosh, thank God Christina was there. Being able to laugh at myself.
Yeah.
Thank God that's never happened. I don't want to jinx myself. But, again, just being myself. And I feel like as I've grown as the leader, that is what I really enjoy as I interact with my team. Just having, fun together when we can have those moments. We have so many moments where we have to be serious, right? Because we're doing so many different difficult things. But man, when we can get together and just have fun conversations, I'm all in.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. I agree. Great advice.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on today. This was wonderful, and it's always great chatting with you and being able to share more of your story, things I didn't know about you.
I know, right? I hope you learned some new stuff about me as many years as we've been friends. This was an absolute blast. I think you're doing a tremendous thing with this podcast, and so I'm grateful to be a part of this. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So if y'all enjoyed this, please share with your friends and family. You can find me at www.drangela.sturm.com. You can find the podcast on anywhere you find your podcast, Apple or Spotify. And then how can people find you?
Most importantly, NOLA Cork Whisperer. Yes. That is my Instagram handle, and that's actually my website also, so NOLACorkWhisperer.com. That's where you can find me. And then, of course, if you want to learn more about the Nehemiah Center and the phenomenal work we're doing, it's NehemiahCenterHouston.org. And, that's certainly where you can find me Monday through Friday. But, on the weekends, I'm playing and sipping and drinking some great wine. So come join me.
Awesome. Both are amazing. So thank you again, and thank you for listening.